Hey guys, Justin here, the Barbell Kings. Today we're going to go over macros and calories. Um, this is the second part of my diet video. If you haven't watched the first part, watch the first part because that one's more important. But today, this should be a short video, hopefully. Maybe I'll go on and talk about, ramble about a bunch of stuff again. Um, Alright, macros, fats, carbs, proteins, your macronutrients. I'll start with fats. We've got like this weird thing in America where we've been taught that fat is like bad for you. That's why you see all this like low fat, I don't know, we've just been pushed this idea that fat is not healthy, and it's not accurate at all, because how fat is healthy, especially if you're getting your fats from, I mean, I'll go over fat sources, but like animal fat and dairy fat from natural sources are it's super great for nutrients. Like you get CLAs, omega-3s. I mean, like I said, like they do a whole lot of function on the cellular level as well. So again, I don't know why we've been fed this whole idea that fats are bad for you, but fats are not bad for you. Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Um, so yeah, I guess go into like I said, the two best sources, your two primary sources should be animal fat and dairy fat. Um, that's fats. Oh, okay. Caveat here. So I was gonna say, like, most, really, as long as you're avoiding like artificial trans fats are probably like the only fat you really need to avoid. Like saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, all these serve a great purpose in the body, but artificial trans fats you can avoid. Natural occurring trans fats are okay. You'll see that in again, animal fat and dairy fat, but those are fine. One thing I do want to mention here, though, nuts are where it gets tricky. So what happens is you have your omega-3 to your omega-6 ratio. These are both fats, but you want to keep that ratio like really low, like 1 to 1, 2 to 1. I wouldn't, like 3 to 1. 3 to 1 is probably okay. I wouldn't go much above 3 to 1 or 4 to 1. That's where you're probably. But where we're at now is most people are at like a 10 to 1, 20 to 1, or 30 to 1, which is horrible for your body. um, but the problem with nuts is they're real high in omega-6 and they're real low in omega-3. So these nuts are probably one of the only naturally occurring whole foods I can think of where this happens. Where if you were to eat a whole bunch of nuts, like if you're just eating nuts by the bag, you could really throw that ratio off. I wouldn't say nuts are unhealthy, but it's something that you need to be mindful of when eating, when you're eating nuts. But your primary sources of fat should be animal fat and dairy fat. Carbs. Primary sources of carbs, fruits and veggies. If you're eating a high carb diet, I'd go for starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, plantains, that kind of thing. See what else can I say about carbs. I mean, there's not really, a whole lot to say about carbs. I guess, like I said, your two main sources are fruits and veggies. White rice is okay. There's not a lot of nutrients in white rice. There's some. You get a little folate. I think there's a little niacin too. Nothing, nothing crazy. It's not a nutrient dense food. But if you're a higher carb person, you know what? Let's see. I don't want to talk about macro, I didn't want to really talk about macro ratios yet. I want to say that for the end, but there are people that are going to, do better with a higher carb, and there are people that are going to do better with a lower carb. If you're somebody that's a higher carb, like I said, eat the starchy vegetables like your potatoes, and white rice is a great way to throw on extra carbs. It's easy to digest, and it's pretty healthy. I would avoid like whole wheat sources, multigrain, those sources for little animal over there. Those sources for carbs aren't too healthy for you. See, is there anything else I need to say about? I don't think so. Eat fruits and vegetables for carbs. That's pretty much it. Protein, eggs, beef, poultry, seafood, dairy. Again, dairy is one of those things. It's if you tolerate it. Some people don't tolerate dairy very well. If you don't tolerate dairy, don't eat it. Doesn't seem like rocket science. Again, all these things you should be getting from natural whole food sources. I always preach about grass-fed meat and wild caught fish. The biggest, like, if you were to look, if you were to take a package of grass-fed meat or grass-fed, so you have a grass-fed steak and a grain-fed steak, macro-wise, I don't think they're a whole lot different. I think you're pretty close macronutrient-wise. this is why I'm a big advocate for pushing micronutrients and gut bacteria health. Because if you look at them face value that way, you're like, well, Justin, why am I spending $10 a pound for the grass-fed versus $4 a pound for grain-fed? But the micronutrient difference is huge. The B12, the iron, you get a whole lot more nutrients in grass-fed food. So again, that's one of those. Yeah, that's like, I guess that's the big reason why I push those things. It's a whole lot healthier for your body. The micronutrients you get out of it, it's a whole lot better. All right, now let's get into the macro ratios. A lot of people count their macros. It's a big thing that people do, and they count their calories. I don't think it's that big of a deal for 95% of the population. Most people don't need to do this. Most people just eat until you're full, and move on with your life. I think some people get too caught up in it, and there's a word for like a disorder, like eating disorder, where people, track too hard, and they get all caught up in the numbers and stuff. I'll go over macro ratios because it's general guidelines in counting calories. There's a calorie counter on my website. There's tons of apps like MyFitnessPal. A lot of the fitness apps have calorie counters for you, and they'll track your macros and help you along the way. But the biggest, like I said, it's all kind of guidelines. You're gonna have to, health is individual. You're gonna have to find what works for you. Anyway, I guess we'll start with the macros. So if you were somebody that was like losing weight or had a neurological disorder or a cognitive function, you wanted to eat a diet that would help you in those areas, you'd probably want to go lower carb, higher fat. I keep my protein like I keep my protein is one thing that I don't change too much. I keep mine right around 35% of my total calories come from protein. This is a general guide. I wouldn't go over 35% for anybody. Protein kind of gets weird in the body when you eat too much of it, when your diet's only protein. However, there are people on carnivore diets that are doing just fine, so maybe it's just me. I wouldn't go above 35% of your total calories coming from protein. I wouldn't go below 20%. Some people do, but I think there's protein plays an important role in the body as well. I wouldn't go below 20%. So anywhere between that range, right? If you're low carb, I would say like 15% of your calories should come from carbs, no more than 20%. If your keto is even lower, I think keto is under 10% or under 15%. There are some people react negatively to low carb diets. They'll either fatigue, brain fog, can disrupt menstrual cycles for women. A lot of inflammation, joint issues, insomnia. Ironically, I talk about fatigue and insomnia can both be side effects of low carb. Some people just don't react well to a low carb diet, and if you're going from a high carb to a low carb diet, I would give it you're going to experience some side effects for at least a couple days. Probably max 3 to 5 days. If you still have negative side effects like a week or 2 weeks after switching to a low carb diet, it's probably best to add some carbs and see how your body reacts. Like I said, diet's one of those things. You have to take it in your own hands. You're going to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So losing weight, neurological function, low carb, I would go like 15-20% of your calories from carbs, and then 60 from fat, and then whatever's left for protein. I keep my protein at 35, so mine would be 50% fat, 15 carb, 35 protein. Most people moderate, like a moderate carb diet, put it like 20 to 30% carbs, 40 fat, and then again the 35 protein. That'd just be general maintaining health. Most people gaining weight, you go the opposite of the low carb, you go high carb. Endurance athletes are great for high carb too. I like looking at myself. Endurance athletes are great for high carb too. I say that knowing full well that there are some endurance athletes that do well on low carb low carb and high fat as well. It's just you just generalize. People that are doing a lot of explosive movements usually use up those glycogen storage in their body very quickly, or in their cells very quickly, and that's what the carbs help refeed that. Oh, I can hear him coming. He's flying. All right, sir. I'll move out of your way. It's 25, but whatever, dude. Live your life. There's nobody here. Let's see. Where was that? Okay, high carb. Yeah, endurance athletes, people that are doing a lot of explosive movements, generally better for athletes to be higher carb, or somebody that wants to gain weight. If you're somebody that has a hard time gaining weight, eating a diet high in carbs, like from the carb sources I mentioned, is generally helpful for putting on weight. Let's see, macro ratios. I wouldn't go below 20% protein, wouldn't go above 35%. And then fats and carbs, you can really play with those a whole lot. Like my high carb, I said, is like 40%, but people go up to 60%, carb, fairly healthy, as long as you're getting, your stuff from a good source. Calorie counters, I mentioned. Calories are something that you're gonna have to figure out what works for you, as always. You can do like got tripped up. You can do like a rough, estimate would be like 12 to 14 times your body weight plus 100 calories for every 10 minutes of moderate exercise. Oh, we got another car. He's a truck, I think. We'll see. Oh, it's a big truck. A Lowe's truck. Oh. Yeah, you take that number and then, I think I said the 100 calories for every 60 minutes of moderate exercise, or excuse me, 100 calories for every 10 minutes of moderate exercise. So if you're working out for an hour, that's an extra 600 calories. That's a super rough estimate calorie thing. That'll give you a good baseline, I guess, and then from there kind of figure out where you're supposed to be. These are all guidelines. Like most calorie counters tell me I need like 3,000 calories a day. That's not nearly enough for me. I have a really high metabolism. I don't know, I eat a lot. I eat like 4,000 calories a day, and some days that doesn't even feel like enough. But all of this, like I said, I've said this like 7 times now, but it's all individual. You're gonna have to play with your diet, figure out what works for you. I got some, gave you some good ideas, good rough estimates on things that you might want to try. If you have any health issues, seek out a functional health practitioner. And yeah, live your best life. Take care.